Good day, everyone. My name remains Matthew Ocheleka Itodo. I welcome you all to this online tutorial on basic biochemistry of body fluid. And the topic we will be discussing now is synovial fluid. Synovial fluid. And the objectives that we will achieve at the end of this course is to explain synovial fluid. Number 2 objective is explain the procedure for the collection of synovial fluid. And so we start. Listening attentively. Now, synovial fluid is a viscous, clear and lubricating fluid that is found in the synovial joint of the body. Body is made up of joint where there's a bone and there's another bone, and two bones coming together. In between the two bones, we have what we call a joint. And that is where we are referring to. At that point of the joint, there are fluid, there are lubricating fluid that is in between the joint. That fluid is what we refer to as synovial fluid. Synovial joints are the most common type of joint in human body. And these joints allow for smooth movement between bones. So the reason why there is no friction between bone A and bone B, between two bones there is no friction between them. The reason is because of the presence of synovial fluid. This synovial fluid plays a several crucial role in the maintaining of human health and functionality as a result of the presence of synovial fluid of this joint. So there is nothing like friction between joint, and then the joint is able to perform its normal functionality, balancing the body, carry out human health. All this is available because of the presence of synovial fluid. And it's good that you listen attentively as we proceed in this course. Functions of synovial fluid. One of the number one functions of synovial fluid is lubrications. You have heard of the word lubricant. Lubrication. One of the primary functions of synovial fluid is to lubricate the joint surfaces. The place where the position where that two joints is meeting, the synovial fluid is lubricating the two joints together, preventing the surfaces from grinding on each other. It forms a thin layer between the articulating bones. That is on the surface of the bone. There is what we call a thin layer covering the surface of the bone. This thin layer is reducing frictions and allowing for smooth movement of the joint. So when you are walking and you are moving, the bone is able to move freely at the position of that joint because of the presence of synovial fluid. Number 2 function is what? Shock absorption. What we call a shock absorber. Now synovial fluid helps to absorb shock and distribute forces across the joint, thereby protecting the bones and cartilage from excessive wear and tear. Now listen carefully. Now the shock absorber we are talking here, the shock absorption we are saying here is that what? If the bone is grinding on each other, there will be what? Wear and tear. But this synovial fluid help the bone, prevent the bone from grinding on each other by protecting the bones, being a thin layer at the surface of the bone. And so when there is a pain or whatever at that joint, it is what? It is absorbed, prevented from affecting the bone. Number 3, nutrient supply. The fluid contains essential nutrients and oxygen that nourish the articulated cartilage. Nutrient supply. You all know what is nutrient? Nutrient is one of the basic requirements for what? For cellular processes. So it means at that point there's a need for nutrient. And one of the ways that nutrient can get into the body through that joint is through what? This synovial fluid. Just like we mentioned intracellular fluid, extracellular fluid, which are the major components for nutrient to enter the cell, and I explain it then for you. So one of the channel for nutrient to enter in this case is what? Synovial fluid. and this synovial fluid lack the direct blood supply. So these nutrients are supplied through diffusion from the what? From the synovial fluid. Another one is what? If nutrients get into the body through the synovial fluid in that region, then means in that the same region through the synovial fluid, waste is removed, which we call waste remover. Synovial fluid aid in removing waste product, a metabolic byproduct. Metabolic byproduct means waste as a result of metabolic reactions. It is being removed through the what? The synovial fluid. Joint nutrition means joint nutrition. The fluid also deliver nutrient to the synovial membrane. You know, if there is fluid, means there is membrane, because the nutrient that is coming need to pass across the membrane into the cell. So it means there is a cell there. Means that's what we mean by what? Synovial membrane. So the nutrition happen there by carrying nutrient across the synovial membrane into the cell located at that joint. And it's good that you listen carefully as we proceed, because this course will be very important. Composition of synovial fluid. Composition of synovial fluid. Synovial fluid is composed of various components that contribute to its lubricating and nourishing properties. Its composition can vary based on factors such as age, joint health, and inflammatory diseases. Now listen carefully now. This synovial fluid is composed of various components, and those components contribute to the what? Lubricating and nourishing properties. But something is affecting it, which is what? Age, joint health. When the joint is healthy or is not healthy, it's affecting the composition of synovial fluid. If there is inflammatory disease, it's affecting the composition of what? Synovial fluid. So age is one of the contributing factors to the level of the composition of synovial fluid, whether it will be adequate or it will be below adequate, or it will be adequate or inadequate. Age plays a vital role, joint health, and then inflammatory conditions. Now, these are the components of what? Synovial fluid. 1. Hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid. This hyaluronic acid is a high molecular weight molecules that provide viscosity to the synovial fluid. 2. Proteins. You have heard of protein, you all know proteins. Proteins also, and the kind of protein we are talking about albumin and what? Globulins. They are present in the fluid, in the synovial fluid, and that contribute to the viscosity and lubrications, which are the functions that we discuss above. 2. Lubricin. Lubricin is a glucoprotein that plays a crucial role too. And what the function of the lubricin is to reduce the friction at the joint surfaces. Then another one is what? Another component that is again is cell. Synovial fluid contains various types of cell, including white blood cell, and which are involved in what? Immune responses. So another one is what? Glucose is also one of the components of synovial fluid, and glucose is the energy source. Okay. Now I want you to listen carefully. 1 of the components is what? Hyaluronic acid. 2 is protein. 3 is lubricin. 3 is cells. 4 is glucose. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Among these 5, they are all components of what? Synovial. They are all the component or composition of synovial fluid. Now, electrolyte. You all know that in electrolyte, I've taught you inorganic composition of body fluid before. So this electrolyte will not be a surprising thing to you. Now, electrolyte like sodium, potassium, chloride ions are all present in what? Synovial fluid. You know, the nutrient, the glucose, have to move across the cell membrane, and so they require sodium pump. They require energies to move across. So that is important for maintaining osmotic balance. That's how important it is. So now you see, finally we'll be talking about what? Collection of synovial fluid. Remember, that I told you from the beginning that I will explain to you at the end the procedure for the collection of synovial fluid. So now, this is the final objective of the class, collection of synovial fluid. One of the procedure are synovial fluid can be collected for diagnosis purposes through a procedure known as what? Joint aspiration. Take notice of this. Joint aspirations or arteriocentesis are the procedure that we use to collect synovial fluid. Now, this is the explanation of the procedure. During this procedure, a needle is inserted into the joint space to withdraw a small sample of synovial fluid. A needle is inserted into the joint to withdraw a fluid of a synovial fluid. Now, the procedure continues. This collected fluid can then be analyzed for various factors that include cell count, like white blood cell count, protein levels, and the presence of crystal or microbes, whether there's microbes invasion, microorganisms have invaded the joint areas, or the white blood cell count to know at level in which the area can be able to fight disease, and also the presence of proteins level that is present in that synovial fluid. When the fluid is collected, it can be analyzed, and the level of it can be traced to a certain clinical conditions. This analysis helps doctors diagnose conditions such as what? Arthritis. So each time you hear of arthritis, infections, and other joint-related disorders, what we needed from the joint to carry out such analysis is what? Synovial fluid. I believe that you have heard and you understand all that we have discussed in this class. But in case you have difficulty to understand any of the subject matters or the objective you have achieved, you can forward your question to my YouTube channels, or my student can come to class. You ask your question in class while we treat it accordingly. Go over this video over and over, understand, and then it will become part of you. Thank you for listening. Remain blessed. My name remains Itudu Matthew Ocheleka Itudu.